everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to our webinar with TTM and Nexford University. We're going to get started in just a moment, and I will go ahead and would love to know, something that you're looking forward to while we wait for everyone to join. If you want to put that in the chat, so get to know everyone here who's in our digital virtual room and build a little bit of connection. My name is Jennifer Bangoura, and I'm Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. We're looking forward to getting started with our webinar shortly, and really glad that you made the time to come. And I always do this, but now I put these questions out there and I have to think about it myself. But I will say, I'll put mine in the chat. Actually, I can get out there's going to be a jazz concert this Friday at a really neat restaurant. I live in Malawi in Southern Africa, and so I always look forward to live music events. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Again, if you're just joining, we're going to get started shortly as we wait for the room to fill up. I'm looking forward to everyone being here and connecting today. So and Rosaline, and I'm here with my colleagues Roshan and Victory. It's great. Thank you, Victory. Okay. And throughout, we'll just see the more are joining. So this interactive session, because it's going to be an intimate one, even if it wasn't, it could be interactive. If you have questions throughout, you'll see there's a Q&A box on your Zoom bar at the bottom of your screen or on mobile. If you can put your questions in the Q&A, that'll be helpful so we can keep them in one place and collect them there. And let me know in the chat if I'm ever breaking up, and I'll switch my Wi-Fi. I think we're all familiar with how that goes, so thanks for your patience. Yeah. So let's see. It's like folks have joined. So I think we'll go ahead and get started so that we can, and we will have a recording of this, so we'll be able to share it afterwards. So welcome to our presentation on the future of work, becoming a skilled intrapreneur. We are so glad that you made the time to join us live, or maybe you're watching the recording. A few housekeeping items, like I mentioned before we get fully started. If you have questions, please put those in the chat, or excuse me, in the Q&A. You will receive a copy of this presentation and a recording as well. So you'll get that at the end. And any links that we reference, they're either going to be linked in the presentation itself or shared in the email follow-up. So here's a brief overview of what we will discuss today. We'll do some introductions so you know who I am, why I'm here. We'll talk more then about understanding the future of work and what intrapreneurship is. Maybe it's a new term to you. Maybe you haven't heard it before. Maybe you are already an intrapreneur yourself. We'll then talk about building and communicating your value and why that is relevant when it to intrapreneurship. Finally, we'll close out with some best practices for professional development, and we'll move into a Q&A. Again, we have a pretty intimate group here, so please put those questions in the Q&A throughout. I'll keep an eye on it as questions come up, and we're really glad that you are here. So, hi everybody. My name is Jennifer Bangoura, and I am Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. I'm originally from the United States, in Washington, D.C., actually, where Nexford University is based. But I currently live and work in Malawi in Southern Africa, and that's where I support our Nexford learners and alumni from. And background is in education, online learning, and career services. So those are three areas that I get really excited about, and I love thinking about how to support right now, especially our Nexford learners and alumni as they pivot and promote in their careers. And yeah, it brings me a lot of joy to connect with you all here today. So when my colleague Victory shared this topic for the webinar about becoming a skilled intrapreneur, I was really excited because we often hear the term entrepreneur, somebody who's starting their own company, business, going out on their own, maybe. And yet we don't think a lot, or I think many times people don't consider what it means to be an intrapreneur. So for those of us who work within companies already, how we can apply similar entrepreneurial skills inside of a company. So I found this quote, it isn't all over. Everything has not been invented. The human adventure is just beginning. And why I chose this quote when thinking about the future of work and intrapreneurship is because sometimes in our careers and in our lives, maybe you think, oh, I have an idea for something, but it's already been done, or I can't do it better, or why me? Why should I be the person to, do X, Y, or Z? And what we're going to explore today during our presentation and our time together is why you are a good person to, bring your entrepreneurial skills to your workplace, and how you can continue to develop that skill set throughout your career. So remember, if it ever comes up for you, that feeling of, why me? I want you to maybe reframe it and think, why not me? Right? And because you're just at the beginning of whatever it is. So welcome to everyone who's joining. It's great to have you here. And to those of you who have just joined, we're just getting started. Thinking about, intrapreneurship and the future of work, I wanted to situate us a little bit on the timeline and the evolution of work. Don't worry, this isn't going to turn into a history lesson, but I think it's just helpful to know, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going when it comes to work. So here are four main shifts in work. So we had the Industrial Revolution, which was from around 1760 to 1840, and this marked a significant change in the way many people worked. And so this was the introduction of machines and factories, replacing some manual labor and leading to increased productivity and the mass production of goods. And then next we have this second industrial revolution, or the technological revolution. And this went up until the early 1900s. And, we have electricity, the telephone, the internal combustion engine. And these innovations led to further improvements in productivity and efficiency and contributed to an increased growth in mass production and consumerism. So next we have the digital revolution. So this is from the 1960s to about the 1990s. And here we have computers, digital technology in the workplace. And this is leading to automation and more efficiency in many industries, as well as the creation of new jobs in areas such as programming and web development. And the fourth industrial revolution is where we are today. And so I'm sharing this because it's nice to have a common understanding of some of the terminology that you might hear when people are talking about the future of work and the now of work, right? So here, this is the current stage of technological evolution in which digital technologies are merging with physical systems. So blurring the boundaries between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. So it builds on previous industrial revolutions, and we have emerging technologies that are coming about, including artificial intelligence, blockchain, 5G networks. And it really, as we're seeing, with artificial intelligence, especially if you're keeping an eye on the news, and things like ChatGPT, how these tools are really revolutionizing truly how we do work and impacting business models and the way companies function. So they're streamlining work, they're helping us become more efficient. This is probably the word that we're hearing at every evolution that we've seen thus far, the increased efficiency. And we also hope for many that it's improving the quality of life for individuals and communities. So something though, with every shift in these, throughout the evolution of work, you'll have heard people say, these technologies are displacing jobs. It's increasing economic inequality. There are potential, ethical and privacy concerns related to the use of some of the emerging technologies. And these are valid and important conversations that people need to be having. And it's something to be aware of as you're thinking about your place and how you are situated in your current workplace, but also the broader ecosystem of work. We'll stop there. Again, if you have any questions throughout, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A and I'll be happy to address them. So when we talk about the evolution of work, we often hear this term, the future of work, and what will it look like? As we saw when we looked at those 4 different, and there have been, other categorizations of the evolution of work, but throughout history, we have needed to adapt and evolve our skill sets in order to remain competitive and relevant in the workplace. And there are many ways you could approach it, I suppose, but and perspectives. But you can either look at emerging technologies like artificial intelligence or digital skills and think, I don't have that skill set and I'm nervous to use it, and I don't know how, and I don't know what to do. And that's one way to look at it. And another way is thinking, how can I adapt and evolve my own skills to maintain my relevance in my current workplace and for future employers? So when we think about the future of work, I've pulled out 3 main trends that we are seeing come to life. So first is automation. And what that means is, we have increasing adoption of automation and artificial intelligence. So with the rapid advancement in both of these areas, more and more routine and repetitive tasks are likely to be automated in the future. This is likely to lead to significant changes in the types of jobs that are available, with a greater emphasis on higher skilled, creative, and social jobs that cannot be easily automated. So an example that I like to use when I think about automation is using a scheduling tool like a Calendly link, or maybe you use HubSpot. So instead of going back and forth by email 5 or 6 times of when are you available? Oh, that time booked. Oh, I'm not free then. Oh, when are you next? Oh, I have a sick day. Using a tool like Calendly, or again, any other scheduling tool, allows you to automate that something before that might have taken a lot more back and forth or a lot more interaction. Next we have digital skills. So as digital technologies continue to transform the workplace, the demand for workers with digital skills is likely to increase. So this includes things like programming, data analysis, digital marketing, which are becoming increasingly important in many industries. So workers who are able to adapt to new technologies and acquire new digital skills are likely to be better positioned to succeed in the future job market. If you're wondering right now what digital skills are important to you or relevant, I'd encourage you to either look at your current employer's job board, or job boards of other companies that you know of, and look at the requirements for the skills section or the qualifications. It might require things like knowing how to use Microsoft Office, certain email providers, but it might list other ones. If you come across a tool or a skill that's required that you don't know about, I'd really encourage you to Google it, see what it is, and then you likely can find a training on how to build that skill within a role that's interesting to you. And finally, so we've talked about automation, digital skills. The third trend with the future of work is increased flexibility, and with this remote work. So we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic that this really accelerated the trend towards flexible and remote work. And it's likely to continue in some form in the future. So many companies are finding that remote work can be just as productive as working in an office, and that it offers benefits such as reduced overhead costs and greater employee satisfaction. So as a result, more and more companies are offering flexible arrangements, at times fully remote, which really can have significant implications for the way we work and live. So now we'll shift to thinking, understanding intrapreneurship. So we've talked about the future of work, and why I wanted to start there is because when we think about innovative workplaces or any workplace, we need to understand, what the workplace is like and how we situate within it. And now we want to talk about what it means to be an intrapreneur. So I put up a definition here. This term comes from a management consultant who described this concept of bringing entrepreneurial skills into a corporate setting. So I put some words here that come to mind when it comes to what it takes to be an intrapreneur. I'd love to know in the chat, though, if you know an entrepreneur or if you are an entrepreneur yourself. Could you just share one word that comes to mind when you think about entrepreneurs? So I'll give a moment because I'd really love to know what you think. When I say the word entrepreneur, what do you think of? You can go ahead and put in the chat what that is. I'd love to know so we can have a little opportunity for connection. So do you have a family member who's an entrepreneur? Are you one yourself? So Victor says it's someone who's innovative, problems, and you're, developing solutions. That's what I think about when I hear innovative. Does anyone else have anything? Thank you so much, Victor. That's great. Creating solutions to problems. In order to create solutions to problems, you need to be somebody who is able to identify problems as well, right? So that's another skill that comes to mind. Thank you, Victor. Know an entrepreneur? I'm sure you do. It says someone who's a problem solver. That's great. Oh, I like this. An entrepreneur is someone who makes life easier and better, bridging a gap in the market, being a people's person. Ooh, Chinwendu, I like that. Someone who's a people's person. That's that comes to mind for me as well when I think of an entrepreneur. Thank you. So that's great. So there are a lot of characteristics. Of course, these are, some examples of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Really, any of us can be. There can be entrepreneurs who don't like to interact with other people, so then they hire people who are the people's people, right? But at its core, being an intrapreneur is a lot like being an entrepreneur, except you're applying those same skills inside your company. So I want you to think now, and I want to keep our interaction going in the chat. Can you share what department you work in, or your, what your core function is at work? It could be your job title, or it could be something like marketing. I work on the marketing team. I'd love to know, just to make sure that I'm providing relevant examples for you all here. So if you can put in the chat which team you are on, that would be helpful, so I can to give an example that's going to be relevant to you. Oh, Gerald, you are in marketing. That's great. Okay. I'll keep this here on the side. So, okay, Victor's on human resources. That's great. So I like the overlap here when thinking about some of these departments, being an entrepreneur, the department that you're working on. I think of human resources as people who make life easier and better, hopefully, right? Okay, so I know we at least have people from marketing and human resources. Chinwendu, you have the legal team. Okay, you're making sure we stay in the bounds. That's good. So these three areas I have listed here: an innovative mindset, a risk-taking ability, entrepreneurial skills. Maybe I'm making Chinwendu nervous when I talk about risk-taking. He's on the legal team going over there saying, no risks. Please don't take risks, right? But what does it mean really to have an innovative mindset, and how does it relate to being an entrepreneur? So an intrapreneur has an innovative mindset that really allows them to identify and pursue new business opportunities and really opportunities within their organization. And they are really able to hone in and zoom in on identifying problems or gaps in existing processes, products, or services, and are always looking for ways to improve them. So next time you all should probably give this presentation, because we have here, bridging a gap in the market, making life easier and better. From the chat, I'm looking at the chat now, creating solutions to problems. That's what it means to have an innovative mindset. It's really being observant and taking the time to look at your day-to-day work and your overall company, right? You're not so solely focused on only your workload, but you're also looking at the bigger picture and your organization as a whole, and thinking, what's maybe not working so well that could be better? What's working really well that we could replicate in another department? So this might be Chinwendu on the legal team, taking a look at what Gerald's doing in marketing and thinking, wow, they're really interesting things. I wonder how we can apply some of the same principles on our legal team to make our work better, and vice versa, right? And you might do that within your company. You might also look externally and look at other companies similar to yours, or maybe even companies that are totally different, and think, how can I apply some of those same principles to my work, right? There's lots of places we can observe. Next is our risk-taking ability. So intrapreneurs are not afraid to take calculated risks and challenge the status quo. So they're willing to step outside of their comfort zone, maybe getting into their stretch zone, and try new things, even if it means failure. So they understand that failure is a part of the learning process, and they use it to inform future decisions. Now, I share that while you might have risk-taking ability, you might have a manager who's very risk averse, or you might work for an organization that's risk averse. So here, that's where you really need to zoom in on the word calculated. So no one is going to know your workplace better than you and what's going to be appropriate or relevant. So that's why it says calculated. So you need to look and see, okay, if I'm going to propose a new idea for how we handle contracts in legal, and I'm going to totally revolutionize it, maybe you need to think how you're going to scaffold whatever project or innovation that you're bringing to your company, so that it doesn't overwhelm people, right? And then finally, an intrapreneur has entrepreneurial skills. So they possess these same things that you all mentioned in the chat, and including some others, including strategic thinking, leadership, and creativity. So intrapreneurs are skilled at navigating complex business environments and communicating effectively with stakeholders. They also have a deep understanding of their organization's culture, values, and goals, and use this knowledge to drive innovation and growth. What's really important here, I think, with the entrepreneur, what I just shared about having entrepreneurial skills, is understanding the context, right? So it's so important, and I think it serves you no matter if you want to become an intrapreneur today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, or if you're like, I don't want to be an intrapreneur, but I really wanted to go to this webinar, which I'm glad you're here. Either way, it's really important to deepen your understanding of your company, to understand how your ideas and efforts are going to contribute to the success of your organization as a whole. I strongly encourage you to, when you're attending your company meetings, looking at your company website to understand what initiatives are taking place and happening, because that information over time will really serve you to help connect the dots for maybe new ideas and projects that you want to bring. And so that it doesn't, it's not totally random and unconnected to the goals and mission of your organization, right? And thank you to Gerald, Victor, and let's see, who else was it? Chinwendu, for your contributions there. Really appreciate that. I want to give an example here just to bring this to life, because I'm talking a lot about intrapreneurship kind of abstractly and the skills that you need, but I wanted to give you a concrete example of what it means when somebody is an intrapreneur. So imagine the lady on this screen, we'll call her Victory after my colleague, Victory. And she's a marketing manager at a telecommunications company. And she notices that the company is missing out on potential revenue opportunities by not offering mobile data plans specifically tailored to small business owners. So she believes that if the company offers such plans, it'd be a game changer and would attract a lot of new customers. So she presents her idea to her supervisor, who's initially hesitant to pursue it. But Victory, we'll call it Victory, right? But Victory doesn't give up. She continues to do her research, gather data, and build a case for why the company should offer these mobile data plans to small business owners. She presents her findings to her supervisor and other decision makers in the company, demonstrates the potential revenue gains and customer acquisition opportunities. And eventually, Victory's persistence pays off, and the company decides to switch to launch a new mobile data plan for small business owners. And the plan proves to be a massive success, and the company sees a significant increase in revenue and customer base. Victory is recognized for her innovative thinking and entrepreneurial spirit and is promoted. So in this example, Victory demonstrates intrapreneurship by identifying a business opportunity, developing a strategy, and advocating for change within her organization. She shows initiative, creativity, and persistence in pursuing her idea, and ultimately drives growth for the company. Something that I see a lot, and whether that's online or, in real life, is people are very capable of identifying problems and saying this won't work, or they're easy to nitpick. Oh, Victory presents her idea. No, that's not going to work. No, this isn't going to work. This, and being kind of negative to people's innovations, right? What's much harder, and what much fewer people do, is they take a problem and then they actually suggest solutions, right? So it's easy to say this won't work. It's much harder to get specific and say, here's why it won't work, or here's why it will, right? So intrapreneurs, they told no a lot, okay? And that's okay. They're not just coming and sharing an idea without backing anything. So that's not helpful, right? Oh, here's an idea, but I don't have any way to support why it's a good idea, how we're going to measure the success of the idea. You could see in this example I shared, really backing up your ideas and innovations with business cases and connecting it back to how it's going to lead to success for the company is essential. And some obstacles that intrapreneurs might encounter include resistance to change. People really resist change. We like to maintain things the way they are. That's an evolutionary, tick in our brains. But people are often not open to new ideas or approaches, which can make it challenging for your idea to be heard. But that's okay. You can persist, right? You might also have a lack of resources, including funding, time, personnel to bring your idea to life. There's risk aversion. So some people, companies and or decision makers within a company might be very risk averse, and they might say, no, we don't want to do anything that's going to change the way work is now. So just to be aware of that, right? There's bureaucracy, especially in large organizations that have really complex structures. This can hinder your ability to be an intrapreneur. It's not impossible, right? But it makes it a little bit harder. You also have silos. So we had some departments listed: marketing, legal, human resources. People can get into silos and really focus on their lane, which makes it hard sometimes to make innovations and new ideas that are going to impact the whole company, because some other departments might not be on board. And finally, you need to be ready that you might not get recognized. So in the example I gave, Victory got a promotion, she was recognized, people cheered, yay. That might not happen. People might not be as excited about your new idea as you are, which can be discouraging. And, I encourage you to be persistent and can continue to, especially if it's a good idea, right? Get feedback to continue to persist. I wanted to pull up here, this is from a World Economic Forum report around some of the top skills that, 2025, this is not too long, far in the future. They're grouped into different areas. You can see on the type of skill on the bottom left, we have problem solving, self-management, working with people, and technology use and development. So sometimes, at least for me, and I think for other people too, when we hear the future of work and all of these skills, we might think about being a computer programmer or having really hard technical skills. What I believe, and what many other people believe, the future of work actually, we're really going to have to double down on who we are as humans, and our ability to connect and communicate with other people will become even more as artificial intelligence and as technology improves and takes away some of the repetitive tasks and allows us to actually engage more. So I've listed these skills here because I want you to think about how you're building them yourself. How are you building your analytical thinking and innovation skills? Your active learning and learning strategies, your problem solving, your critical thinking, your creativity. These are all skills, just like muscles in your body, that you can grow through practice and time. It's hard to build these skills, though, without actually implementing them and using them in real life. Just like I can read about what it means, I can read about playing tennis, but until I actually play tennis, I'm not going to improve as a tennis player. So that's an analogy you could use in thinking about your own ability to build these skills. So next, we've talked about the future of work and intrapreneurship, and I want to talk a little bit about what it means to have a personal brand, and we'll talk about why it's relevant for being an intrapreneur to have a strong personal brand. So I'll take a moment, and in the chat, I'd love to know either what does it mean to you to have a personal brand, and who do you know who has a good one? So who comes to mind when you think about either people you follow on social media, someone you know in real life? It could be a pastor, it could be a religious figure, it could be a leader in your community, someone in your friend group who, they have a real identity connected to them. Immediately what they stand for, who they are. So can you put in the chat, what does it mean to you to have a personal brand, or and who do you know who has a good one? So I'll give that a moment. Let's see what y'all have come up with here. Ooh, Gerald, I love this. So Gerald says, having a personal brand means that you have a distinctive image or reputation that you've created for yourself based on your skills, values, personality, and experience. It's the way people perceive you and the impression you leave on them, both online and offline. Wow, that's amazing. I love it. That captures it really well about what it means to have a personal brand. It's your reputation. It's what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. And I think here, what's really important, and thank you so much. Let me keep an eye on the chat and see if we've got anything else. Please keep them coming. If you have somebody that comes to mind to you who has a strong personal brand, I'd love to know. Personal brand is really about self-awareness for yourself. For other people, we can leave that. It's really important to understand who you are, what you are excited about, what you're interested in. And it's not, and to have that intersection of like what people know us for and what we want to be known for, right? Because we could think, oh, my personal brand is that I'm a really kind person, and everyone likes me, and I'm really smart, and and then in reality, people are like, actually, that person, you're not very nice, and I don't think you have very original ideas. And then you have a disconnect. So that's not your personal brand, right? Your personal brand is not how you wish you could be. It's how you are and how others perceive you, and having that that intersection. And really, now more than ever, you can control your personal branding. And it's super important. The questions that you might be asking yourself are, what do I stand for? What do I believe in? What do I value? What do I offer? What do I know? How am I going to make an impact? And building on the answers to those questions over and over again. When you understand your personal brand, it really can become a virtuous cycle, because when you understand what you care about and you communicate that to other people, then those opportunities that are aligned with what you care about and are interested in will start to come your way, or people will know to send opportunities your way in that space. And I mean, within your workplace, like maybe projects that you want to work on. If a new opportunity becomes available within your company, and people know, oh, Gerald really wants to build XYZ skill, and this project is an opportunity for using XYZ skill, why don't we ask Gerald if he can contribute and add to it? So let's get into this personal branding and what it means. So thank you so much, Gerald, for sharing. That's really helpful. So here, a strong personal brand and building one can help intrapreneurs, and why it's important to have one. It can help you gain visibility and credibility within your organization. By establishing a reputation as an innovative thinker and problem solver, intrapreneurs can build trust and respect among colleagues and decision makers. That makes it easier for them to advocate for new ideas and initiatives. And I'm using my colleague Lydia here because I think she has it's a great example of a manifestation of your personal brand through LinkedIn. There are a lot of ways that you can have a personal brand. One way is through LinkedIn, your profile picture, your cover photo, your headline. You can see here the things I know immediately what she cares about professionally. These hashtags of things that she talks about, right? Why your personal brand is also relevant as an entrepreneur is that a strong personal brand can help intrapreneurs network and build relationships with other people in their organization and industry. So by sharing your ideas and thought leadership through social media, public speaking, blogging, through other social media channels, intrapreneurs can attract the attention of others who share their interests and can provide valuable feedback and support. Thirdly, a strong personal brand can help intrapreneurs attract new opportunities within your organization. So by demonstrating your expertise and track record of success, intrapreneurs can position themselves as attractive candidates for promotions, new projects, or even job offers from other companies. So one really easy way to do this externally, again, is through LinkedIn or through social media platforms. Professionally, LinkedIn is the best, I do believe. But even think about, if you haven't, if you can let me know in the chat, what do you all use as an internal communication system? Do you use Teams or chat or Slack? If you can let me know in our Zoom chat, what do you use to communicate internally? Because I want to give you a specific example of what I mean here. So at your company, what do you use to communicate with one another? Slack, great. So I imagine on Slack, thank you, Fullerin, you probably have a number of different channels. You have emails. This is a great example. So there's lots of different ways we communicate with each other. So Slack, emails, you might have a shared document that people are putting comments on, right? Ultimately, there are a lot of ways that you build your personal brand with other people that you're really not even being that we're not conscious of, not you specifically, all of us, right? So when people over time in Slack messages are consistently putting thoughtful responses or really good questions that you can tell they've spent time thinking about, that contributes to their personal brand. When somebody asks for help on a project and Fullerin is always there to raise her hand or their hand, Chinwendu is raising their hand to engage or support, that contributes to your personal brand. Oh, these people help one another. That, part of their personal brand is being a supportive colleague, is asking thoughtful questions, is responding in a timely fashion to requests, right? All of our interactions with one another contributes to our personal brand and what other people think of us. So I want you to take a little time to think about, in your interactions with your colleagues, and it's okay if you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe there's a disconnect between how I interact with others and how I want to be perceived. And that's okay. We all are on a journey and we can continue to improve over time, but it's that self-awareness of thinking, how do other people perceive me in the workplace? And if you are not sure, turn to a trusted colleague or a close friend and say, what do you think of when you think of me in the workplace? And they might say, oh, proactive, enthusiastic, always ready to hand, or it could be anything, and be willing to share that feedback with others. At the same time, it might be that you don't hear something that you want to hear, and that's okay too, because that's an opportunity for growth and learning, right? And I'll just jump over this slide. So we'll move now into this professional development skills. And here I found this quote, the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice, right? We all have the capacity to learn, and it truly is a gift. We can build our ability to learn. That's a skill that we can build over time. The willingness to learn, that truly is a choice. And we see this time and again, we all, so let's get into it. I want to talk about some best practices for professional development. And again, if you have specific questions that are coming up, please do put those in the Q&A so I can address those at the end. So there's 4 ways that you can really, that are best practices for professional development. There's many practices, and here are 4 though that I want to talk about today. First is setting clear goals. Second is seeking feedback. Third is taking ownership. And then 4th is continuous learning. So when I'm talking about setting clear goals, there's 3 things to do. You need to identify what your aspirations are. And how this aligns with being an intrapreneur is thinking, well, what skills do I want to build? And how could I, identify problems or opportunities within my organization to actually, leverage the skills I already have and build skills that I want to have. So here you need to think about your interests, your values, and your strengths. Research different industries and companies, because we have a lot to learn from others about, when we're building our skill set, and seek out opportunities for mentorship or networking. Next, you want to break down your goals. So really get specific and measurable, identify the skills and resources that you're going to need, and remember to celebrate your successes along the way. Some people can get really focused on the end goal, they meet it, and then they set another goal to get to that goal, and they keep on going, right? But you need to take the time to celebrate, wow, what I've accomplished. And an easy way to do this, if you have, performance reviews within your company, is to look at your goals on a quarterly basis and think, okay, it's, January 1 or it's April 1st. What do I want by the time that July 1st rolls around? What do I want to be able to look back and say, here's what I accomplished? And how can I break that down either on a monthly basis or a weekly basis? So next, you also want to review and update your goals. So you want to review your progress and see, what you've accomplished. Be open to the feedback and suggestions, and embrace new challenges and opportunities. So next, seeking feedback. This is very hard. I am sharing this. It's very difficult to do this. I'm saying it like it's easy. I know it is not. And feedback really is crucial to learning and growth. So seeking it from colleagues, mentors, and supervisors helps us understand our strengths and our growth opportunities and growth areas. Acting on feedback and demonstrating to your supervisor that you've heard what they've shared or from your colleagues, it shows maturity, it shows that self-awareness, and it shows, your potential for promotion and growth, right? So here, be really specific when you're asking for feedback. So not just saying, how am I doing, but looking at saying, here are the 5 areas that you asked me to focus on this quarter. Here's where I started, here's where we are now. What do you think I could be doing better or differently to make, to achieve XYZ outcome? And remember, align your feedback and your questions with your company's mission and goals at the same time, while you're thinking about what's important to you and your own professional growth. Finally, here, you want to own your mistakes. Okay, it's okay, and not every workplace is going to allow us to feel safe in owning our mistakes. So if you can't own it with, publicly with your supervisor or your team, recognize it for yourself. Better if you can own it up to other people. But recognize, where something didn't go the way it was supposed to, and then come back and say, here's something that didn't go as planned. Here's what I'm going to do differently next time, right? That helps you grow. It shows your growth mindset, and it helps you turn that mistake into an opportunity to improve. So next, here, I love encouraging people to really take ownership of your professional development. So be active. You're here now in a webinar like this, which is a great example of being proactive and taking ownership of your own professional development. But be proactive in understanding areas where you want to improve or grow, and how you're going to do that. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you. Okay, so nobody, we oftentimes think other people are thinking about us way more than they are. They probably aren't, right? And that's okay. Maybe there are some people, I'm sure, who are thinking about you a lot, but take that initiative, and remember, you're the driver of your career. Another way you can do this is to set up regular check-ins with your supervisor to make sure that you're on the same page, and seek out that mentorship and coaching, either with someone within your organization or someone within your industry, who you can get feedback from. And finally, continuous learning is vital to staying relevant in your profession. And you need to keep yourself updated with the latest trends and advancements, as we have listed here, in your field, by attending conferences, workshops, webinars, and staying up to date on industry relevant and related publications. I don't mean here that you need to spend lots of money on these things. You can find a lot of these conferences and webinars for free. And start following people in your field on LinkedIn or on other social media platforms who can inform your thinking about how, what trends are changing or are evolving or developing, emerging in your industry. This helps you understand, and it's okay. Sometimes I like to attend webinars where I don't even understand the title of the webinar, because then I get in there and I'm like, people usually then typically the purpose of the webinar is to break down that topic so that other people can understand. And that helps you know, like, okay, I don't know much about whatever insert topic area, and I want to know more. And so it helps you understand and identify your own gaps and your knowledge gaps or skill gaps. Next, you really need to seek out learning opportunities. So of course, these are ones that are relevant to your professional development. You can do this by asking people you admire in your field what what should I be learning that I don't know? What would you recommend, right? And then, of course, a really great pedagogical technique is applying what you learn to your work. So this is really important to us at Nexford University, is practical learning. So taking what we're learning in the classroom and immediately applying it to the workplace. And this helps strengthen, taking theory and actually putting it into practice. It strengthens your own, cementing that knowledge. And it's something that we are really we integrate and embed within our entire curriculum. So we've talked now about the future of work and intrapreneurship, what it means to have a personal brand, how to build one, and why it's relevant for being an intrapreneur, and best practices for professional development. So we've talked about these three main areas. I wanted to move briefly into talking about, who we are at Nexford University and how that connects to these different skill areas as well, briefly. So Nexford University, our mission is to enable greater social and economic mobility by providing learners access to high quality, affordable, dynamic online education that actually prepares them for the global workforce. So our curriculum and our courses are 100% online. We are accredited and licensed in the United States and based in Washington, D.C. We've had over 5,500 learners in over 100 countries enroll in our different offerings. We are really focused on our learner success and committed to supporting our learners and alumni to make sure that they are achieving the goals that they have set out when they enroll in our different programs. We have something that's called a stackable credential model. This means that we have imagine a stairs or building blocks for our entire all of our offerings. So we have courses that take 4 to 6 weeks, and then courses build into certificates. So say you take, you're interested in artificial intelligence, you take a course on it, you want to learn more, so then you could pursue a certificate. Well, rather than starting from scratch, that one course you took builds into a certificate, and you would take I think 4 to 5 courses to build into a certificate, and that takes 5 to 6 months. We have undergraduate degrees if you haven't received your undergraduate yet, and then all the way up through an MBA. We've also recently added different pathway programs, so more of the technical track on software engineering, cybersecurity, data analysis. And something that's unique is that our programs start on the 1st of every month. So you don't have to wait till January or September, typical term starts, they start on the 1st. So we are really excited to partner with you all at TGM Education, and we're able to offer 15% off of our already really affordable monthly prices. We know that a big barrier to accessing higher education is financing education. And so we are trying to make our tuition as affordable as possible, and making it even more so by offering this scholarship in partnership with you all. You will be able to join our global community of learners with people in those over 100 countries around the world, and really supercharge your own growth and network. When we connect people who don't necessarily think the same way we do, it helps expand our own understanding of the world around us and spark new ideas and innovation. So I will add the link here, and I think my colleagues are going to add it in the chat so that you can check out that landing page yourself if you're interested in learning more about our partnership. I'll do one more reminder. If you want to add questions to the Q&A, I'd love to receive them. But before we wrap up, I want to practice one of the pedagogical techniques that we like to use at Nexford around metacognition. So reflecting on what we've learned, because that's going to help us to remember some of the important parts of the webinar that we had today. So I'd love for us to take a minute. I have a notebook here next to me, and maybe you do too, or maybe you have a notes app on your phone. Take a moment to write down 2 to 3 things that you plan on doing after this webinar, or takeaways that you have. So I would love if we had a brave soul who would share what one of your takeaways are in the chat. Maybe it's something that you're going to do related to building your intrapreneurial skills or your personal brand, or something related to your professional development. So let us know in the chat once you think about it. What's something you're going to do after this webinar? Because that's really going to help you cement some of the things that we've learned. So Victor is going to identify his skills and knowledge gaps. How are you going to do that, Victor? How will you identify some of the gaps? I appreciate it. Any other brave souls out there? Something I want to do is, take another look at my LinkedIn profile and really think, does this reflect who what I'm interested in and what I want the world to think I'm interested in? And I also want to spend a little bit more time thinking about all these different ways I interact with colleagues and how that contributes either positively or negatively to my personal brand and how I'm perceived by others and how I want to be perceived by others. This is great. So Victor, I love that. So you're going to check that difference between what you know and what's trending in your industry, which is human resources. That's great. That's really helpful. That's wonderful. Thank you. So I want to say, this has been a great opportunity to connect with you all. Huge thanks to my colleagues, Roshan and Victory, for being here today and making this webinar possible, and to all of you for being so proactive for your own professional development and learning, to make the time and spending an hour with us here today to understand and think about the future of work and being an intrapreneur. This is we don't take time is one of our most precious assets. So we're glad that you've chosen to spend your time with us here today. Again, my name is Jennifer Bangoura, and I'm Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. We will be following email with a recording, a copy of the presentation, a link to your landing page so you can learn more. Check out our programs. We have a really wonderful program page. It goes into really clear detail about what is included when you enroll in Nexford courses and offerings, and what you will learn and the skills that you'll build. So we look forward to being in touch. We'll look forward to your feedback so that we can continue to grow and improve in our webinars and our offerings like this. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again for making the time. Take care, everyone.